So I had a pretty good day today, actually, all things considered. Now it's 8:45. I'm lying in bed, picking a movie to watch to go to sleep, and then all of a sudden, this fucking guy slips into my feed, Brett the ex-patriarch, and now he's trying to pretend that he is a victim of domestic violence himself. He is a male victim of domestic violence. This guy is a male feminist who has for years been harassing MRAs, been harassing male victims, been accusing male victims of being liars, and just generally being a disingenuous, dishonest, pro-feminist, misandrist piece of crap. But take a look at what he says. Now he's the victim.
Male victims are far more likely than female victims to report that they believe their story would not be believed, or that they would be blamed for the abuse they suffered. So men who say, "What about men?" are not being unreasonable.
Okay, I promise I'm not going to interrupt too much, which is going to be hard. But this guy is so full of shit because that is exactly the opposite of everything he's been saying for the last 2 years. He built his entire career first on TikTok, now he's on YouTube saying how MRAs lie about male victims and most male victims aren't actually victims at all, and MRAs lie about the stats. And now all of a sudden he's pretending, oh no, they've been reasonable this whole time. That is not what you've been saying, and you damn well know it. And if you know this guy, you know this guy is full of shit, because you know that is not what he's been saying from day one. This guy is absolutely dishonest. This guy is an absolute clown. This guy is an absolute grifter. And he's dangerous. And so I'm calling him out. Anyway, no more interruptions from me, sorry.
We should ask, "What about men?" and keep asking it until men are treated equally to women. Okay, so let's talk about what men self-report the barriers to reporting their victimization are. Firstly, they say they fear police will ridicule or humiliate them, that simply admitting victimization can be hard for men to vocalize. They report self-doubt, shame, and fear that holds them back from asking for support. They say they fear police won't believe them, that they won't simply take their word for it, that they won't find their stories credible due to a lack of other compelling evidence to back them up. They say they fear police will dismiss their claims of victimization and assume they must have done something to provoke or instigate a violent response. And they fear that reporting to police won't actually do anything to help, that there's very few options and protections for victims of domestic violence. When I reported mine, there was nothing they could offer me, other than, if I could afford it, to spend the night in a hotel and give her a day or two to cool off. And why is all of this? Because men are being treated equally by a system that was set up and designed for victims who are women. A system that immediately cast doubt on a victim's story, their motivations and reasons for speaking up. A system that grants perpetrators all the benefit of the doubt. Maybe it was a mistake or an accident. We shouldn't assume it was malicious. Maybe they were provoked. Maybe it was self-defense. Maybe the victim asked for it and naturally enjoys this kind of treatment. A system that fears the consequences of accepting that victims are telling the truth, and so leverages their harrowing experiences as a way to undermine their credibility, to dismiss the truth of their stories. And far from advocating for male victims, men's rights advocates prove my point. Because when I gave my criticism of the Tin Men, the very first place they went to in response was to dismiss, discredit, and invalidate my experience as a victim of female-perpetrated violence, proving the entire point that I was making, that men's rights advocates only pay lip service to advocating for male victims. They care only about as far as they can use our stories as weapons for their misogyny. If they genuinely cared about the fear, the stigma, and the shame that victims of violence face, preventing them from speaking out, they wouldn't perpetuate the very same attitudes and behaviors that cause it. Instead, it is the very first weapons they reach for and use, and not a single one of these advocates for men ever calls them out on it.
Yeah, we didn't help you because we know that you're a lying sack of shit. And the fact that you would call out Tin Man, let me tell you something. I know Tin Man, man to man. Like, I know him on a personal level, okay? And he is an absolute upstanding character. He's a man I would trust in my life. So you calling him out just shows how low you really are. And everything that you're saying about men being stigmatized or men not being taken seriously by the police, that's because of things like the Duluth model. Feminist models that you in the past have defended. So hold up, you in the past have defended the very systems and very structures that are responsible for men not being taken seriously. But now all of a sudden, After years of defending those things, and after years of saying those things are good, out of the blue, you have a brand new story where now you're a victim of domestic violence, which that's new. That never came. That's a new one, and it's MRA's fault. It's our fault because we didn't support you. The person who constantly called us liars, the person who constantly supported feminists, the person who constantly supported the Duluth model, the person who constantly harassed male victims, the person who constantly called male victims liars. We didn't support you, and now you're surprised by that? Like, dude, do you not understand? Only someone who is a complete, pure narcissist would even think what you're saying makes sense. Nobody thinks that you make sense. No male victim would go into feminism. That's the thing that you don't understand. No male victim would think that feminists are allies. Because if you've any experience at all in the real world in this subject, you know feminists are not the allies of male victims. Feminists hate male victims. That's the way that it is. So you are just so pathetic, and these videos are so pathetic, and it's so obvious to anyone that actually understands the community and actually understands the space. You are just straight up liar. 100%. And it's disgusting, man. Honestly, you're a piece of shit. You're a coward. I've been calling you out for years. You've been avoiding me for years. Frankly, go fuck yourself, dude.